Hi and welcome to Photo Jacket Make Along. We are on week 3 already, and today we will be making the sleeves. Last week we have finished the yoke. We divided for the body and sleeves, and I hope that the fit is good for you and you are happy with the result. Normally, when you are making the top-down garment, after you divide for the body and the sleeves, you naturally proceed with the lower body here, because you stop at this point somewhere, and then you just continue to grow the lower body. But for a Fatal jacket, we will leave it for a while, and we will talk about the sleeves right now, and I will explain you why. As you know, we have two options in the pattern. One is with two cakes, two whirls option. This option is for bigger sizes, and we also have one cake, one whirl option. I would like to show you the differences between two options on these two samples. This purple one is made with two whirls, and black and white here is made with one whirl. They are both in size medium. That's a good example to show you how the sleeves look and what is the difference. After we divide, if you use two whirls, after you divide it for body and sleeves, you still have enough yarn in each cake, and we will be using one cake for one sleeve to proceed with the long radial change on the sleeves. And you can see on this version, the purple version, that the sleeves are with the long color change, and you can see that for size medium the whirls are enough to finish the sleeve up to the cuff. So this one is two whirls option, and here we can see that with one whirl option we don't have enough yarn left. We will use it for the body, lower body, the whirl, and we will make the sleeve with the yarn B or one color yarn. That's the difference between two options. Two whirls for long changes of colors for the sleeve, and one whirl option with one colored sleeve. Here is size medium, and you can see, as I've already mentioned, that the changes of colors go throughout the sleeve up to the cuff. This is the first size, the smallest size we use two whirls for, but for bigger sizes this gradual change will be smaller. For example, for large size you will stop somewhere here with the whirl, and then you will join and do the rest with the yarn B. For X large you will stop somewhere here, for 2X size you will stop somewhere here, and so on. So for each bigger size this gradual change on the sleeve will be smaller and smaller. You will see the exact numbers of grams you should use for each sleeve in the pattern. But this is the difference between two options. Two whirls option with the gradual change for the sleeve, we use one cake for one sleeve, and one cake option with the sleeves in one solid shades. Okay, so now I will show you both options with the hook. So here is our yoke. We finished all raglan increases. We divided for the body and sleeves. We made the underarm chains, and now we leave the lower body aside and we move to the sleeves. If you look to the pattern, you will see that the sleeves section begins with option 1 for two whirls, and I will show it first. For two whirls option you are using two whirls, and after you made the yoke you have two cakes left. They are approximately the same weight, they are approximately the same in the color change. So we will be using one cake for one sleeve and another cake for another sleeve to make both sleeves alike and to make the color changes gradual and smooth. So first thing you should do is to find the middle of the underarm. So here is our underarm chains with a few rows added, and you can see that we still have these markers on both sides. And for round 1, it will be made on the right side. Check if we have the right side. Yes, it's here. And in round 1, you see the note that you will need probably make decreases in the corners for a correct stitch count. What does it mean? The corners are these spots with the markers. You can see we have a loop here on top and then underarm chains at the bottom, and these 2 places are the corners, so-called. So to achieve the correct stitch count, you might need to make the decreases in these spots, or you might not. The most important thing for the first round of the sleeve is to get the exact stitch count as in the pattern. I would like to draw your attention once again that 2 Whirls option is for size medium and up to bigger sizes. For smaller sizes, you will see for round 1, the stitch count, you will see 3 empty places. 3 empty places in the beginning of the stitch count. It means the 3 smallest sizes, which you don't have the numbers for, because you will make them with 1 Whirl option. That's the next page of the pattern. Okay, so for round 1, you need to find middle of underarm chain, which is already occupied with single crochet. You see, these are the chains, these are the space, and between the spaces you can see this chain occupied with the single crochet. So we attach 1 Whirl, which you cut after the lower body. You attach it with slip stitch and make chain 1 to begin. Then we proceed to round 1. We make single crochet in the same chain as join, and I would recommend that you mark this first single crochet so that you don't lose it later, so that you know exactly where you should join your round. And now we will continue with the same stitch pattern as for the yoke and lower body. So we will be making chains over the chains and singles in the singles. So we chain 1, skip next space, and make single into the chain already occupied with the single, and we continue it up to the corner. And here you might need to make a decrease. How we do it? You should skip this next space. Here is the next single, and then we see the next single after the marked space. So you should play a little bit around here just to close these holes, because if you make the singles as per stitch pattern here, so if you do like this, you skip this marker and do like this, you might get the holes in the corners. This is the first thing you can get, and another thing is that you might get the wrong stitch count for the round 1. So we need to make the decrease here. So we chain 1, skip the space, and then we should make a decrease by working single crochet 2 together. I will move away this marker. So we skip the space which was marked. We have 3 loops on the hook and we close them. This is the decrease. I will show you once again with the word. You chain 1, skip the space, you insert the hook, yarn over, draw up a loop, don't do anything, then skip the next space, insert the hook into the next single crochet, yarn over drop loop, you have 3 loops on the hook and you close them together. So this is the next stitch, and then you continue with the same stitch pattern around the armhole. You will continue with the same pattern around the armhole. You will come to this next corner. You might need to make the decrease in the same way as you did here, and you will come back to the beginning of this round, to the first stitch, which is marked, in my case, with orange marker. Okay, so we finished round 1 on the right side. We made decreases in both corners to close the holes and to get the right stitch count. We came to the last space before the first single, see here. So now what we need is chain 1. I have already made it, but I will make it once again. Chain 1, and we should join with slip stitch into the first single crochet. And this is round 1. For round 2, we should turn our work and work on the wrong side. So on the inner part of the armhole. We chain 1 to begin, then chain 1 and skip the space and make the single into the next single. And this will be our first space of the round, which I would mark so that you know where it is later. And then you just continue with the same stitch pattern as for the yoke around the armhole. You continue and then you come back to the beginning of this round. We are at the end of the round 2. Here is, you see, it's quite difficult to see what's going on here, so the marker is really a helpful tool to see where is the first space. That's the first space marked, and this loop in front of the space is the last stitch where we should do the last single before we join. So we chain 1, make single into this last stitch and join. When we join the rounds on the wrong side, I recommend to insert the hook from back to front, not like you'll normally join them, inserting the hook from front to back, but I would insert the hook from back to front to reduce the twists of yarn. See, we joined with a slip stitch into the first space, turn, and the yarn is already on the wrong side, so we don't do anything extra. So this was the end of round 2, and now we are proceeding to round 3. Round 3 of the sleeve is very similar to the round 1. We turned after round 2. We are on the right side already. Chain 1 and make the single into this first stitch and mark it right away, not to miss it later. Okay, and then you continue with the same stitch pattern around the sleeve as you did it already for 2 rounds, and when you come back to the beginning of the round you will make the last stitch here, chain 1, skip space and join with the slip stitch into the first single crochet. These are 3 rounds of the sleeve, and you will repeat round 2 and 3 until you have exact number of grams in the whirl left. So you will need the scales for the sleeve, and you should weight your cake from time to time to see how much is left. The exact numbers are given in the pattern, so when you reached the weight you need, you will stop with the whirl and you will join yarn B. I have made 12 rounds of the sleeve, and you can see that it's already growing. Here is our front, here is the armhole, and here is the sleeve. This blue part is the sleeve. And you might want to start shaping it a little bit, because the upper armhole is the widest point of the sleeve, and you might want to make it more narrow up to the cuff. To shape the sleeve, you will need to make the decreases in every 12th or 14th round. Of course, you can make them more often, let's say after 10th or 6th rounds, but that will mean that your sleeve will become narrow faster, and you should of course play and see what works best for you. I would try on the yoke with the sleeve after every decrease to see how it's going, if you still need to decrease or if you can stop at this point, and if you just make it straight up to the cuff. That's up to you. I will show you how the decreases are made. They are made in line with the armhole. So this is our armhole here, and we have this marker that indicates the beginning of every round, so that you can clearly see where the rounds are joined. And decreases will be made approximately at this point. I would make all the decreases on the right side always, and I would alternate the decreases before and after this marker. So I would make on one round, I would make the decrease after this marker, and on next decrease after 12 or 14 rounds, I would make it in front of this marker. So I will show you both ways so that you can see how it's done. So now I will be making the decrease after the marker. Chain 1 to begin the round and single crochet into the first stitch as you usually do, and mark it so that you know where the round is joined. And then I would make the decrease. The decreases are worked over the 2 singles, and the space between those singles is skipped. So we chain 1, skip the space, insert the hook into the next single, yarn over, draw up a loop. We have 2 loops on the hook. We skip the next space, insert the hook into the next stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops. This is our first decrease. Then we will continue with the stitch pattern until the beginning of the round here, and we will join the round as usually. So this decrease will count as 1 stitch, and on the next rounds you will just work in the usual way. So this is how the decreases in the beginning of the round are made. Now I will show you the decrease, how I would do it before the marker. And here is how we will do the decrease before the marker, or in the end of the round on the right side. So we made the whole round with no increases around the armhole or around the sleeve, and you should leave 2 singles, 1 single and 2 singles before the marked one. These are 2 singles you will make the decrease over. So you chain 1, I've already made the chain, I will make it once again. Chain 1, skip the space, insert the hook into the next stitch, draw up a loop, skip next space, insert hook into next stitch, draw up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook, and pull through all of them. And we chain 1, skip the last space, and join with the slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. You see the decrease is quite invisible. There might show up small bumps in the places of the decreases, but because they are worked in line with the underarm, they will not be very visible at the sleeve. So this is how the sleeve for 2 whirls options should be done. You join 1 whirl, you make the sleeve until you have a certain number of grams left into this whirl. You make increases as you go, decreases as you go to shape the sleeve, sorry. And after you have the certain number of grams left, your stitch count, you should stop with round 2 on wrong side. So you finish round 2 on the wrong side and you stop here. And your stitch count should be a multiple of 4. That's important because we will make the small cuff at the very end, or we will join, or for bigger sizes we will join the yarn bee in the middle of the sleeve. So it's important that you have the stitch count multiple of 4. And now I will show you what we will do next. Okay, so let's have a look at the sleeve we are making. Here is 2 whirls option, size medium. You can see the seam here in line with the underarm. You can see that it's quite nice and neat. There are decreases here and here, and here are almost invisible, so it's a nice seam. So you will finish with 1 whirl at some point. I have the size medium, and you can see that whirls are used up to the cuff, but for the bigger sizes you will stop somewhere earlier, depending on your size. The bigger size is, the smaller the part with the whirl will be. And now we will join solid color to continue the rest of the sleeve with this shade, yarn bee. As you can see, for size medium, it's only used for the small cuff, but for bigger sizes you will have, for example, half of the sleeve with this yarn bee shade, or even 2/3 of the sleeves will be made with this color. Let's imagine I'm making the biggest size, so I needed to make this bit with whirl. I have a certain number of grams left of the whirl, so I should stop using whirl at this point, and I should join to yarn bee the solid shade. I will use this light blue for the purpose of this video, and I will continue with yarn bee for the rest of the sleeve. Before you change to yarn bee, check that after the decreases you made, your stitch count is divisible by 4. This is important for the next round, round 4, and now we will continue with round 4. So we should change to yarn bee into the first chain, cut whirl, and continue with yarn bee. We make single crochet into the first stitch and again mark it so that we know where the round is started. And now we'll make the spike. The spike single crochet is very similar to usual single crochet stitch, but it's made a little bit deeper, so two rounds below. So you see this next space and the space below it here, 1 space, 2 space. So we should insert the hook here, 2 spaces below. We insert the hook here, yarn over, drop a loop, and you should draw it up a lot to the height of the current round. Yarn over and pull through both loops. So you can see that they look like 2 singles, but one is shorter and one is longer. This second one is spike. So we made the spike single over 2 spaces. I will show you once again. We made 1 single. We are in front of chains. So we insert the hook below the second chain. Yarn over, pull up a loop, draw it up a lot. Yarn over and pull through both loops. This is spike. And we should make the single into the next stitch because spike was made over the chains and we don't need to skip anything. This is the first bit. Chain 1, skip next space, single, spike, and single into the next. And we continue with the same bit around the sleeve. What is important here, because we make less chains on this round, you might want to change to a smaller hook because your gauge might become a little bit bigger and you can have a bump on the sleeve here. So if you feel like your gauge is looser than on the previous round, please change to a smaller hook or continue to work tighter for this round. This is the end of round 4. You see that we made this bit with the spike all around the sleeve, and if your stitch count was correct, you should end up after the last bit and everything should line up symmetrically. So to finish, we chain 1 and join with the slip stitch into the first single crochet. This is round 4. And for the next rounds, you will continue repeating round 2 and 3 as you did for this bit. Again, you will continue making the decreases until you get the desired width, and you will continue making the sleeve to the desired length. What does it mean? It means that you should try your jacket on and see how much the length of the sleeve you want. And for the next sleeve, you will be doing all the same. Please make sure that you make the same number of rounds with Whirl and same number of rounds with Yarn Bee, with Arena Soft, so that 2 sleeves are the same. So you should have the same length on both sleeves. That was option 1 of the sleeve for Fade Light jacket. For those who are using 2 whirls. And now I will show you option 2 with only 1 whirl for smaller sizes. And now I will show you how we will do the sleeve for 1 whirl option. It means for the smallest sizes, starting with XXS, and medium will be the biggest size for 1 whirl option. The sleeve is made in a similar way as for 2 whirls option, with the only difference that we will use Yarn Bee to begin. We will leave Whirl for the lower body, we will not use it for the sleeve. And the first round will be made with the spikes already. So first thing that we need, as in the 2 whirls option, is to find the center, approximately the center of the underarm, the center chain, the middle chain, which already occupied with the single. Here it is. We will join Yarn Bee here with the slip stitch and chain 1. Then we need to make single crochet into the same chain as join. Then we need to make a spike below next space. We can see there's 2 spaces, so we insert the hook below the second one, draw up a loop to the height of the current round, yarn over and pull through both loops in the hook. That's the spike. And single crochet into the next chain occupied with the single. That's the first set of stitches we begin with. And now in the pattern for round 1, you can see in the brackets the numbers. They are given only for 4 first sizes, because 1 whirl is used for only the smallest sizes up to medium. And the same with the stitch counts. In the end of this round, you can see only numbers for 4 sizes. I'm making the smallest size, so for me the number of the repeats will be 14, and with this repeat that will be 15 in total. So now I should work the same set of stitches, chain, single, spike, single, around the armhole, and total number of these repeats should be 15. So in the corners, I will probably need to make the decreases again in the same way as we did for 2 whirls option. You should really be creative here and play around with the stitches. Maybe you will not be able to accomplish this round from the first try. No worries, it's just the process. Please frog it and remake it until you get the correct stitch count. So there are two important things here. First one is that you need the correct stitch count after the first round. The second important thing is that you don't have the holes in the corners. That's why we make the decreases here. And the third important thing is that the gauge stays the same. We make less chains on this round, so you might want to change to a smaller hook on, or to work this first round a little bit tighter than the previous ones. Okay, so we made single spike, single, chain one, and now I would make the decrease. The decrease over next to stitches. So I would make the decrease over this single, skip the marked space, and next single, that would be the decrease. So I have made chain one already, insert the hook into the next stitch, draw up a loop, skip the marked space, insert the hook into the next stitch, draw up a loop. We have 3 loops on the hook, and we close the hole. That's would count as single crochet. And you see, and no hole, that's good. And we would make the next spike below these spaces. So insert the hook below the space, draw up a loop, pull through both loops, and single into the next stitch. And now I will be repeating the same bit all over around the armhole. Chain, single, spike, single, chain, single, spike, and single. I will repeat this. Make sure I have 15 repeats before I come to the beginning of the round. Yes, just not to miss this first single crochet, make sure you mark it with the marker so that you know where you should join your round. So I will go around the armhole and stop here, and we will see each other here to decide if we need another decrease here or not. So here we are. I've made the repeat of chain, single spike, and single around the armhole, and I ended up with 13 repeats, and I need 15 according to the pattern. So I need to make 2 more repeats, and let's have a look where I can do them. If I look at the beginning of the round, I can see that the first repeat was made in the half of the underarm, so I can probably make another repeat here in this half of the underarm, and another repeat, the next one was made in the corner with the decrease, so I can probably make it also in this corner with the decrease as well. So what I will do is chain 1, single into the next stitch, spike, and then I would make the decrease to close the corner. So I will insert the hook into the next stitch, draw up a loop, insert the hook into the next stitch, skipping the space, and here is a tricky place. I would insert the hook like this just to close the corner so there is no holes. And that was single, spike, single, and now I need to make chain 1 and make again single. Let's say here it will go into the next chain occupied with the single, spike, and single, and that will give me 15 repeats. And to close the round, I will make chain 1 and slip stitch into the first stitch of the round. And this is round 1. Once again, I needed to make 15 repeats for this round, so I played around and accommodated the repeats over the underarm and in the corner so that I get the correct stitch count. Next rounds are the same as for the 2 whirls option, so round 2 is made on the wrong side. It started with chain 1 and another chain and single into the next stitch. I will mark this space so that I see it later where I should join. We chain 1, skip next spike, and single into the next single, chain 1, skip the space, single, chain 1, skip the spike, single, chain 1, skip the space, single. So we repeat the same stitch pattern as for the yoke around the armhole. And when we come to the beginning of the round, we will make the last single into this stitch before the marked space, and we will join the round with slip stitch into this first marked space, inserting the hook from back to front as we do for all rounds on the wrong side, to prevent the yarn from twisting. So we'll repeat these 2 rounds as for 2 whirls option I have already shown you, until you get the desired length of the sleeve. We'll also be shaping the sleeve in the same way as we did for the bigger sizes, by making the decreases in the line with the underarm before and after this marker. And after we reach the desired length, we will just fasten off the yarn, and that will be the sleeve for 1 whirl option. The second sleeve must be exactly the same as the first one, so you must make the same number of the rounds. You should make increases in exactly the same spots, so you might need to write everything down, how many increases decreases you made on which rounds, so that 2 sleeves are alike, the same. And this is everything I wanted to show you for the sleeves, and see you next week when we will talk about the lower body and about the mosaic pattern on the lower body. Bye!